Welcome, everybody, to the Freedom Hub and happy 4th of July. It is our great nation's 245th birthday today. And we are going to talk about its inception, what makes it so special, what makes our nation so different than all the other nations of the world, and why this one is so important. I mean, we were promised that we are allowed to have our backyard barbecues now. So I hope you're enjoying that. Because after all, today is our Independence Day on the Freedom Hub. It is a great day to be an American. Why? Because of patriots like you. Patriots like you who are out there right now celebrating our Independence Day. This is America. We explode things in the sky to celebrate. That's right. Fireworks? Oh yeah. Rockets, red glare, and all that. That's what we do. America. We drink beer. We drink fine American bourbons. We grill. We get together with family and friends, and we celebrate the day. Now, why do we celebrate the day? Well, it's our nation's birthday. It's July 4th. And on July 4th, 1776, 245 years ago, we signed the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is what, basically, it's what it says. We declared our independence from a tyrannical government. There was a lot of reasons why we did this. Now, of course, everybody says taxation without representation, and yes, that was part of it. That was a big part of it. But when you look back at it, I kind of want to put this in perspective for you. Not a whole lot of the colonists supported revolution. It was talked about a lot, of course. And the Continental Congress, came together in Philadelphia, in Independence Hall, and they discussed their different options. They talked about, who was going to be the king of America. And they had a lot of different things to figure out, and they did it. They did it. Now, our country is a republic. It is basically what that means is that there is no king, there is no monarchy, there isn't any one ruler over our country that decides what is best for our country. Our government in our country is representative of the people. We vote our representatives into Congress, and we vote for our president. We decide. That's the power of the people and the power of the vote. That is what we do. And before 1776, a lot of republics didn't last very long. Mainly because they were small and they were easily taken over by one specific clique or group of people with one agenda. And then that one agenda kind of takes charge of everything. But the American colonies were different. It was bigger. There was a lot more people. So made it a lot more difficult for just one faction to kind of take everything over. And I think that's pretty interesting. We are the longest lasting democracy and the longest lasting republic in the world. Even though we're one of the youngest countries, you could say. America's still young. We're only 245 years old. That's nothing compared to France or Great Britain. But the building blocks of which this country were built on are some of the most important and are still valid today. The Constitution is a living document, and it is open to change, and it has changed a lot over the years. It is the longest lasting written article or guideline or constitution of a government ever. And it's because it's a living document. It's open to change. It's open to the amendments. And, you know, one amendment outlaws another. And then we add more and more and more and more. That's what we do. And those amendments have been really great over the years. I mean, we started out with our Bill of Rights. And the Bill of Rights is really what set our country apart from others, is because in those rights, we don't say that this is granted by our president. These rights are granted by our ruler or even our elected ruler. No, those Bill of Rights that we have say that these are our rights and they are the rights of every human being only granted by God. That is an amazing thing. Now you think about the founding fathers and you think about how they were, in the mid 1700s and what they were experiencing with England. Anything that they had, anything that they enjoyed, and everything they hated as well was all a result of what they were granted by their ruler, the king. Our Bill of Rights are granted by God, and they're applicable to every human being. These are inalienable rights. Every American is entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we could bring that into current events, of course, and talk about how some of those inalienable rights may have been violated during the last year or so, where the government decided that you no longer have the right to go out and make a living for yourself. Could have very well violated them. Probably did. Regardless, the United States of America is the greatest country in the world, and it's because it is open to change. We've changed it a lot for the better over the years. We gave women the right to vote. We gave African Americans the right to vote. We outlawed slavery. Done a lot of great things with our Constitution. It's a living document, and it's grown over the years with the country. And that's why it's the longest lasting Constitution in the world. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how our Independence Day this year is different than all others, and how we really need to look at it and see what our core values as a country are, what we need to celebrate, why we need to celebrate. The surge of patriotism that's happening in the country right now. Have you noticed it? I'm going to talk about it. But when you look back at the American Revolution, you have to realize that only a very small percentage of the American colonists actually supported revolution. Most of them were indifferent, or they cared about England a lot more because, who are these guys? Think about it. Just think about it. You're living your life, you're doing your thing. Most people are farmers back then, so really you wake up, you tend your crops, you go to bed, and that's pretty much every day. It's a big day when you go out to the city to sell your crops or because you need to go buy a new plow. That's a big day. So why should you care? Why should you care? Well, the farmers start getting charged more for their supplies, the taxation and all of that, and they start getting less and less for their crops. Then you're going to start caring about the government a little bit more. And the wealthy Americans at the time, they noticed it right off the bat. All of the taxation without representation, yes. A lot of these men owned businesses and were very, very powerful, very wealthy colonists. Yeah, they say the country was founded by a bunch of rich white guys. And yeah, it was. It really was. And those rich white guys had a lot of influence. a very small percentage of the American colonists actually supported revolution. And when the Declaration of Independence was signed, still a very small percentage. During the entire course of the Revolutionary War, support for the American Revolution never got above 45%. Never even a majority of the colonists supported it, rising up against Britain. A lot of them got tired of it. A lot of them were just like, okay, this is anarchy. The colonists were a bad idea. Pack up, honey. We're going back to England. A lot of them did that. Just get away. And yes, it did grow in popularity during the course of the war. You had more and more people signing up to fight for the colonists, for the Continental Army under George Washington. You had more and more people signing up for that. Stories of the battlefield started coming down. People started getting more and more inspired. People who lived further away from the battlefronts were starting to hear about it more and more, and they were just like, okay, I kind of see what's going on here. Yeah, it would be nice if I kind of had a voice in my life. That would be nice. And they did it. It was a miracle. They defeated the most powerful army in the world at that time. They did. And yes, we did have French support during the war. And we had French soldiers who were fighting alongside Americans in the Continental Army. And they helped train us, and it was awesome, and it was a long-lasting, and still lasts to this day, friendship. France is an ally. Those French soldiers went home, and they talked to their families, and they talked to their friends, and we inspired the French Revolution, Napoleon, and all of that. We done did that. The word of freedom and democracy is very strong and very contagious. But America's greatest enemy has always been division. Always. Now, we just went through a year or two where, and you know, it's still going on. The country is very, very, very divided. And it's not like the Civil War where you have North and South. No. This is brother versus brother. This is neighbor versus neighbor. Household versus household. A lot of division plagues our country today. And at the start of the American Revolution, it was very much the same story. You had people who supported Britain, and you had people who supported revolution. And you couldn't understand, you couldn't wrap your head around why the other side felt the way that they did. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? It was Ronald Reagan who said that freedom is always just one generation from complete extinction. It's true. If you raise a generation of people to be anti-democracy, anti-freedom, it will crumble. Freedom is delicate. Our democracy is incredibly delicate. It is. And it's because it's ruled by the people. People change. As we saw with the last election, sometimes people make the wrong decision. The last 6 months or so have not been so good for the country. And we're going to talk about that in another video. We're going to talk about everything that has occurred. And we're going to pick it apart. But today I just want to talk about former Vice President Joe Biden's inaugural address. In his inaugural address, Joe Biden promised that he was going to unite this country. He was going to bring us all together. Finally, he saw the division. He did. He saw how divided we were in the 2016 election. It was very close. It was very close. And then with the 2020 election, it was even closer. And more people came out to vote than ever. How many on each side? Of course, that's still up for debate. But the country is incredibly divided today. It was divided during the American Revolution. It was divided during the Civil War. It was divided during Vietnam. During the Vietnam conflict, you had all the protests in the streets, the flower children. You had the people going off to war. You had the veterans coming back from war and getting spit on in the streets. The way that Americans treated the veterans after they came home from Vietnam, which most of them were drafted to go there, they didn't even have a choice. Go here or go to prison. The way that they were treated is absolutely despicable. We need to make sure that that does not ever happen again. And that is why getting roped into an endless war is awful and can divide the country even more. Joe Biden talked in his inaugural address about unifying the country and bringing both sides together. He wanted to be a uniter. He was going to be the great uniter. Do you remember? Do you remember former Vice President Joe Biden talking about how he's going to bring us all together? And he has done anything but within the last 6 months. He has done more to drive us apart. It's more like unity by conformity, bringing us together by force. And that is no way to rule a democracy of the people. It sounds like a different form of government, doesn't it? Over the past few months, I have noticed a great surge in patriotism in this country. I don't know if you've noticed it either, but it's definitely happening. I'm seeing more flags. I'm seeing a lot more flags, actually. I live out here in California, and I see a lot of flags. Flags are a symbol of pride. They're a symbol of our country. And we should be proud to be Americans every day. I love the surge of patriotism. I have never felt like this country was more unified, sadly, than on September 12th, 2001. This country came together. The day after we found out that we were not invincible. We had spent 24 hours in fear and in terror. And the next day we woke up and we decided that that is not how we are going to live. We are not going to live in fear. We are angry. We are upset. We will have our vengeance. And we did. We are proud of who we are. They attacked our civilians. They attacked our way of life. And we were not going to let them stand for it. They wanted us to give in. They wanted us to back down. They wanted to shock us into submission. And what did we do? We hung gigantic American flags from the tops of skyscrapers. We draped them over buildings and over bridges across the country, over the Mississippi River, into the Rocky Mountains, on the Golden Gate Bridge. That's what we did as a country. We united with a great surge of patriotism. I haven't seen it since. I'm starting to see it more and more now. And I'm wondering why. I'm always proud to be an American. I'm always a patriot. And I always have a flag hung proudly. Every time that I see a man in uniform, I make sure to thank him for his service and tell him that we won't forget. But I'm seeing it more and more from everybody. It could be a couple different things. It could be the fact that liberals who were so against Donald Trump, now that he's out of office, they feel like they can actually be proud of their country again. Okay, sure. Sure, no problem. You go right on ahead being proud of your country. Even if it's for the wrong reasons, the result is still favorable. Former Vice President Joe Biden hasn't really given me a whole lot to be proud of within the last 6 months. If you can think of anything that he has done to make you proud to be an American, please leave it in the comments section below. I'd really like to know if there is anything. Is there something I'm missing? Maybe I don't maybe I don't watch CNN every day or MSNBC, so I might be missing it. So let me know in the comments. Thank you. So it could be that. It could be that liberals are finding a new love for their country now that their sleepy leader is in charge. It could be that a lot of the stuff that he is doing is absolutely terrible, and they're realizing that they are wrong. And so you have more and more people coming over to the other side, to the conservative side. Could be that. It could be a sense that we came together as a country and we defeated the worst pandemic the world has ever seen. We did it. I go into the supermarkets, the grocery stores, and I see displays with flags everywhere. I go into the baking section and I see red, white, and blue cookies all together with little flags on them. There's little stars, stripes. I go down the cereal aisle and I see red, white, and blue edition Captain Crunch. I've never seen that before in my life. Then again, I haven't been eating sugary cereals in probably 20 years or so. I see American flags on the soft drink boxes, Pepsi. Not Coke so much. And of course, beer. America's breweries always love putting out patriotic cans and bottles. Nothing wrong with that. You go down the liquor aisle and you start seeing more and more American whiskeys. Start seeing a lot more flags on bottle. There's a Patriot whiskey. There's a Freedom whiskey. This right here is Lead Slingers. Lead Slingers bourbon. It is veteran owned and operated. One of the founders is Matt Best, who also founded Black Rifle Coffee. And we'll get into that with its own specific review. It's going to come up here pretty soon. But yeah, veteran owned and operated. There's an American flag on the inside label of the bottle. And on the front, you have an eagle holding a rifle in its talons in front of an American flag. Patriotism is here. It is trendy. And it is wonderful. I do not have a problem with it whatsoever. So, are we uniting as a country in that way? Is that what it is? If so, I don't think that's anything that former Vice President Joe Biden is doing. I don't think so. I think that we went a good year or so where we forgot about the freedoms that we enjoyed and took for granted every day. We stayed inside. We hid. We complied with our government. It's like putting a wild animal in captivity. So you have a wolf. You have a wild wolf used to climbing the mountains, going through the forests over miles and miles and miles. And he's captured, and he's told to stay in his pen. That wolf doesn't really comply, does it? It's because that wolf is used to freedom. It's used to freedom, and it's used to being able to do what it wants with its freedom. It's not ready to comply. Now, a lot of Americans were, and a lot of Americans stayed at home, and they hid, and they complied. Some did it out of fear. Some did it as it's a logical thing to do. And now that it's over-ish, Americans are like, wow, I really love being able to go out and see my family. I really love being able to go hang out with my neighbors. And as of today, I really enjoy being able to go out, watch some fireworks, and have a backyard barbecue, as promised. So maybe that's the sense of patriotism and pride that we're seeing. But don't be fooled. This is still a very divided country, and there's still a lot of work to be done. The country does need to be unified. And I honestly believe that the truth will set you free. If people start listening to logic and reason and the rule of law, it will bring the country together. There needs to be accountability. And there needs to be truth in the media that is everything that is communicated down to the people. There needs to be truth. And if that can come to light, we will come together as a country. We will not go quietly into the night. We will not go down without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today is our Independence Day. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'd like to go ahead and thank all of our law enforcement, first responders, veterans, and active military out there. If you like what you saw, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell over there, and let freedom ring throughout the land. Thank you for watching.